Can you hear me loud and clear now, my friends? Welcome, one and all. Thanks for joining us tonight, and welcome to the Indoctrination. I'm David Snedeker, and we have no more war for 2 weeks, it seems. President Trump has absolutely mastered the art of war, and this was something that certainly we had to show them our our might, but this is what President Trump released. Let me bring it up for you here. Just a few hours ago. Let me take you to that. Based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran. Remember, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time was the deadline. And subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete and immediate and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. Cheers, everyone. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with the definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the U.S. and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. On behalf of the United States of America as president and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. That was at 6:32, an hour and a half. It was pretty close to the deadline there, certainly. And excuse me. And certainly something that I did not believe that we would have to go through with it, but at the same time, I knew that President Trump was not bluffing. Okay, and so this is unbelievable. What's going on right now, and this is the art of war. This is Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and without question, this was a master stroke. And it allowed, I'll read to you Iran's statement, which President Trump revealed, and that is on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran. I express gratitude and appreciation for my dear brothers. He, Prime Minister of Pakistan Sharif, and he, Field Marshal Munir, for their tireless efforts to end the war in the region. In response to the brotherly request of PM Sharif in his tweet and considering the quest by the U.S. for negotiation based on 15-point proposal, as well as announcement by POTUS about acceptance of the general framework of Iran's 10-point proposal as a basis for negotiations, I hereby declare, on behalf of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, if attacks against Iran are halted. So this is the verbiage of Araghchi, Sayed Abbas Araghchi, Minister of Foreign Affairs. So it's almost like they're giving an ultimatum back to President Trump. If attacks against Iran are halted, our powerful armed forces will cease their defensive operations. So see how that's couched, even though Iran attacked countries that had not attacked it early on. For a period of 2 weeks, safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces and with due consideration of technical limitations. Now, President Trump had already made it much safer to pass through the Strait of Hormuz already. So it's kind of like there's the verbiage is of Iran saving face, right? So very, very interesting that how this is all going down. Now, as I've shown you repeatedly, that this is not just the destruction of Iran. This is the destruction of the some of our allies who have been in bed with Iran and are now have exposed themselves quite clearly. Also, the Operation Epic Fury. Pete Hegseth is called for a press conference tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, probably to announce some specifics to this ongoing operation, ongoing negotiations. And so very, very interesting to see that. Now, quick shout out, by the way, to Spiritual Street Fighter. Every battle is won before it is fought. This is a direct Sun Tzu quote, and it is the direct actions of Q plus President Donald J. Trump. That's Spiritual Street Fighter, both on X and on Truth. So if you haven't already, I know most of you have. Please give her a follow. We are very grateful for her allowing us to use her beautiful artwork in our on our show. And she has not given this allowance to any other podcast, by the way. So we're very grateful that she's chosen us, and we're very grateful that President Trump has also expressed a deep interest in her work by reposting her. I believe the number is 41 times now. I believe she is the most reposted account on Truth or X, and that's quite an accomplishment. And so now one of her posts hello everyone, by the way. Sorry to kind of jump right into it, but I wanted to let you know this is something that I've been talking about for weeks, that the threat of war and the threat of continued war has been used by President Trump, and the only reason that we had to go to war was because the threats did not have an effect on Iran, stopping these things from occurring. So very very cool that we've got 2 weeks of ceasefire, and that Iran is indeed negotiating, and albeit they have always used carefully worded messages to save face, if you will, and this one is no different. And so, but so let me get back to what I was saying. Atakula, who had been in bed with Iran, Britain, Obama. Yes. So basically, the City of London, one of the entities in the City of London is Lloyd's of London, and the insurance companies that were allowing safe passage, ensuring safe passage. So every ship that went through the Strait of Hormuz, the City of London was making a tremendous amount of money. And also why England was hesitant to enter the war, because they thought they had President Trump by the short hairs, because in the first days of the war, they announced that they were not going to ensure the passage, the safe passage. And so President Trump instead did it himself. And this completely took the air out of their sails, and so that's all being exposed. Their relationship with England and some of the other NATO countries, and this is another reason why President Trump is also moving us away from NATO. And just like he's moved us out of the WHO, he's moved us out of um, the UN, and all these entities that aren't helping us at all. And it's a one-way street. And President Trump has flat out said there are no free rides any longer. And so this is very, very good news, and certainly we don't want war. I want to take you to our friend Rob Cunningham's post on X, and let me just calm the backdrop here just a bit, and very interesting timing. President 47 ending 47 years of tyranny on 4/7/2026, on the seventh night of Passover, parting the city of London's Red Sea of debt to free the captives. What a time to be alive. God is good, truth is, and real Donald Trump. And this is the woman who is singing Nessun Dorma. And I've played this for you before, but let me just play it again.
Here is Nessun Dorma in English. But my secrets are hidden well.
Which President Trump is.
My name no one shall ever know. No, no. Oh, my princess, you know these secrets. Till I tell them in morning light. Then your kiss dissolves the silence of the morning. Come love me, darling. Oh, we will vanish into the night sky. See all those bright stars at dawn. We'll win. We will win. Oh, we
Beautiful, and beautiful post, Rob. Thank you for that. Guys, if you're not following Rob,
is Nessun Dorma
please do so. And the so and also along the 47 theme, the 47 number, let me show you this, which is Native Patriot laughing my ass off, the 47th president at a 47% approval rating, ending a 47-year regime on 4/7. Are we in a simulation? And of course, breaking President Trump's national approval rating has surged up to 47% per Rasmussen, right? So the city of London is being affected very clearly. But what's also, and I've been stressing this the past two nights, my what was it, Easter evening broadcast, in which, by the way, Kevin Rottello did a great snippet of the show from Easter. He did 2 snippets, and I tried to share them, and I was unable to, and I did a complete dive. And I'm going to take you through that tonight. But it was very frustrating trying to get that across. And I did not understand why I could not post that. But but what I showed you was that while President Trump is talking about the obvious connection to Barack Hussein Obama, and is that we wouldn't be in this war right now if it wasn't Obama. And President Trump has clearly stated this. And we are very much, let me see, here we go. And all the comms that President Trump, many of the comms that has been doing have been about Obama. And I'm going to take you to that in a minute, but I want to first take you to President Trump himself Monday night.
This should have been handled by 7 presidents, a lot of presidents. And those presidents are saying now, every one of them to their friends, we should have done this a long time ago. So it's not something I like doing. It's very dangerous. And we're getting them at the height of their strength. If I didn't terminate the Barack Hussein Obama Iran nuclear deal, they would have had don't forget, that was a path to a nuclear weapon. Remember this. He chose Iran over Israel, pure and simple. How Israel can vote for a Democrat is if you're Jewish in New York City or any place else in this country, and how you can vote for a Democrat is unbelievable, because he chose Iran, a very hostile Iran. Remember when he filled up a 757 with cash, billions of dollars of cash, and he sent it over to them. Then they gave them tens of billions of dollars. He chose Iran over Israel and really the Arab world, if you look, because, the other, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, I mean, you take a look. I mean, I can add Kuwait and I can add Bahrain, and you can add others. He chose such an unlikely candidate. Nobody could believe it. Frankly, if you're going to choose between Iraq and Iran, he should have befriended Iraq. He went in the exact opposite direction of all thinking, and he made a terrible mistake. But that was a road to a nuclear weapon. And when I terminated that, everyone said, oh, he terminated it. It was one of the best things we ever did because he had a road to a nuclear weapon. And it was a very short-term deal. Countries don't do 10-year deals. Countries do hundreds of years. You don't do a 10-year deal. For a country, you're a landlord and you're renting a store on a certain street and you give somebody a 5-year or 10-year lease. This is a country. It was a short-term deal. It was ready to expire. I terminated it before it expired. Took a lot of heat. And it was one of the best things I ever did, because he would have had a nuclear weapon. Then he would have had another nuclear weapon, had those beautiful B-2 bombers not gone in 8 months ago and obliterated that site. And by the way, the word is obliteration. CNN said, well, maybe it wasn't complete. It was so complete that they still haven't been able to get it. It was obliteration. But if we didn't hit them, that was a courageous decision, too, because we had all those planes flying in at night with very little cover, unbelievable stealth planes, and they were able to do their job. If we didn't do that, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon at a high level, either one of those 2 instances. And if they did, in my opinion, I told this to Bibi Netanyahu yesterday, Israel would have been extinguished. Large portions of the Middle East would have been extinguished, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, or others. And you saw that with thousands of missiles raining down upon them. They didn't think they were going to be hit. They thought they'd be watching us fight. And all of a sudden, UAE got hit by 1,500 missiles. He would have taken them out also. and they were powerful. If I didn't come along and terminate the Obama deal, which was terrible, the Iran nuclear deal was a road to a nuclear weapon, a big one, unlimited, legally. I terminated it without even much thought. It was so easy. I terminated that, and then the B-2 bombers. And I did one other thing. I had killed Qasem Soleimani, who was an evil genius. And the reason I did it, I heard he was going to knock out 5 of our military bases. And had he lived, I believe we would be fighting perhaps a different Iran right now, because he's never been replaced, you know. And I did one other, but this one was not picked up. Osama bin Laden. If you read my book, I said you got to take him out 1 year before the World Trade Center came down. So I wish you'd read the book. But you, as a president, to be a good president, I believe you have to have good instincts. And a lot of this is instinct. Yeah, please.
So he's got great instincts, and so what he's been doing with many of his comms regarding Iran, especially in the past 2 days, he's certainly talking to the general population, but he's talking to us, the Anons, very clearly. And his conversation with us has been, you know, we already know that he's talking about Iran, so that's on the surface. But beneath the surface, he's been talking to us about Obama, and so that's why this is so important. Now I got to take you to Jesse Waters right now, because what's going on right now is missiles are raining over Tel Aviv just 2 hours into the ceasefire agreement.
Off the mic again. Mike, what are we seeing there?
Well, Jesse, as anticipated, the sirens are now wailing over Tel Aviv, indicating that another missile is inbound. And it looks like those bright lights in the sky are the missiles. And it looks like you can see an interceptor that is in hot pursuit of the missiles. And it's always quite dramatic when you see those interceptors going after it. And these ones might disappear behind our building here. We're going to lose sight of them. But they're still quite lethal and coming into Tel Aviv. And I didn't see an interception in this case. Should be able to hear it in a second or so. And it's still quite lethal when there's an interception. Most of what we see out here are those cluster bombs in recent days. But when you get a conventional warhead with that powerful explosive, obviously you hope that the interceptors can get it. And the interceptors are about 90% effective, but that means 10% get through. And those conventional warheads we've seen are quite powerful. They leave great craters in the ground. Still waiting to hear the impact on this one, which should come any second. But we saw 2 lights in the sky. There. And there was another flash off in the distance there. So there was quite a big explosion. So that sounded like more of a conventional warhead that got through. I can't really tell you if that was an impact or an interception, because we lost sight of that one, Jesse.
Yeah, you could definitely hear that. Real quick, how long does it take for an Iranian missile to travel to Tel Aviv? What did you say?
I'd say about 10 minutes usually.
10 minutes?
By the time we about 10 minutes from when we first get the alert.
All right.
Till I'm hearing more impacts off in the distance from when we first get the alert to when the sirens start wailing.
All right. Well, maybe the remnants of the Iranian regime either didn't get the memo or they did and they don't care. So we'll obviously keep a close eye on that.
Now, this is very interesting, because certainly one of the things we have to remember is what I've been talking about for years, but what has come out recently about Bibi Netanyahu funding Hamas. Now, Ron Paul told us this many years ago, that Israel is funding Hamas. And, he was not taken seriously and was not listened to, like much of the things he was saying, about auditing the Fed and all that and ending the Fed. So thank you, Ron Paul, for all your great work early on when too many people were asleep to really receive your message. And I've been listening to your messages for quite some time and trusting them as well, because I always saw you as a man of integrity. And so, but we now know through documents, through released files, that Bibi Netanyahu has been funding Hamas through Qatar. So that is, this conspiracy theorist here has been proven right once again on that, as well as many others that have been talking about the funding of Hamas. And we even had confirmation of groups within Palestine that were in collusion with the IDF in Israel on causing problems so that Israel could continue their devastation of Palestine, their absolute genocide of Palestine. And so we have to keep in mind that those who run Israel would like nothing more than for us to absolutely obliterate Iran even further than we already have, and they would like to continue to do so as well, just like they continue to do that with Palestine. And so we have to, when we see a report like this, we really have to, take that with a grain of salt. Not just because I can't imagine Iran being that stupid, because they know they're cooked. They know that they are beaten, and they know that they do not want their infrastructure bombed to oblivion. And that's what President Trump was doing, and that's why he gave the ultimatum that he did. That's thus the title of the show this evening. The ultimatum is something that held more weight based on the actions of President Trump that he has already taken in our Department of War. And so, therefore, it was heeded this time around, or so it seems. Now, if rogue players might have gotten their hands on a missile and sent it into the airspace of Israel, then that's obviously going to be a very serious thing. However, I'm getting static. Thank you, Caroline. I appreciate that. Okay, I've got to figure that out. Let me know if I'm 5'5", would you please? So this is something that we have to make sure that we're very careful about. I'll keep you updated about that throughout the show. So what I want to take you to is, by the way, my entire post, my entire dive was very much what you're going to see from the Easter show, but I have a few things that I'm going to add to that. But unfortunately, my post has been deleted from the drafts. Now, I get it. For example, I have been censored ridiculously so, 27 platforms that I've lost over the years. I'm into year 8 of this particular Truthcast. And but many years into 18 years into my work on Facebook and attempting to awaken the masses. So I've certainly been censored by the black hats. But I've also been censored by the white hats over the years, based on just, trying to understand why some of the things have been done to me when supposedly white hats are in control. And now I'm not a big account by any stretch of the imagination, but but the content, for example, I signed up to be a White House correspondent, and I have not been called up. And it might be because of my reach, but it could also be because they're not ready. Still a tiny bit of crackling. That's great. Let me know. Ceases. And if not, I'll just jump to another mic. This is my preferred mic, obviously, but let me make sure that I am. Yes, I'm still on. Okay. So at any rate, so I can understand if the White Hats don't want this information out there that President Trump is communicating so clearly to us on the subject of the Obama comms. But certainly with his one of his caretakers came out, housekeepers came out and said that he had a homosexual relationship with the chef that was murdered in the shallow pond behind their compound. And this man was a very good swimmer as well, and supposedly he was paddleboarding and drowned. But and they've recently changed that investigation from suicide or from accidental. Okay, still crackling. Thank you, Diana. I'm gonna shift mics here, and please let me know if that solves the problem. And here we go. Okay, still going on. Thank you both. Okay, how is that? Are we back to normal here yet? So at any rate, that has been moved from accidental death to homicide. So this is now a homicide investigation. So the comms regarding Obama have been very clear. I'm going to replay this from the other night, Easter evening, and please enjoy this. And I'm going to add to this dive afterwards as well. So thank you, Kevin, for capturing this. I don't understand why my drafts have been deleted on this subject of this dive. We're covering President Trump's post right here. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards, or you'd be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. Somebody reposted this and said, when the Ayatollahs find out that the guy they're dealing with is crazier than them, they perk up. And that's Donald John Trump. And then I took us to these drops. And then also to the Obama drops here, okay, and then it says it's who he's aiming the gun at. Connect via past religious leaders regarding Hussein. We have everything they know we do. Risk. Think North Korea, nuke stranglehold. Think logically. Timeline plan. Are you awake? Yeah. So. A lot of things, and of course Clinton and Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre as well on these posts. I do not know why this is not working. Excuse me, folks. Yeah, this is where I jumped to, and these posts here. Okay, so very good. That we're getting some some direct comms from POTUS that we should absolutely be paying attention to, and there's no military timestamp because it was AM. But let's go to President Trump's most recent posts on Iran, and then he said Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right after that post. And I believe that what he's saying there is that that's their deadline. That's the deadline he's giving Iran. Okay. And then let me see. I wanted to take you up to. Um, I'll come back to that. Um, birthright citizenship. And well, they rescued the seriously wounded and really brave F-15 crew member officer from deep inside the mountains of Iran. The Iranian military was looking hard. Let me make sure you're with me. Yeah. And the American military was looking very hard. Yeah, I see why that's doing that. In big numbers and getting close. He is a highly respected colonel. This type of raid is seldom attempted because of the danger to man and equipment. It just doesn't happen. The second raid came after the first one, where we rescued the pilot in broad daylight. Also unusual, spending 7 hours over Iran. An amazing show of bravery and talent by all. I will be having a news conference with the military at the Oval Office on Monday at 1 p.m. God bless our great military warriors, President Donald J. Trump. Okay. So pretty significant that we got our guy back, right? We got him, my fellow Americans. Over the past several hours, the U.S. military pulled off one of the most daring search and rescue operations in U.S. history for one of our incredible crew member officers, who also happens to be a highly respected colonel, and who I am thrilled to let you know is now safe and sound. This brave warrior was behind enemy lines in the treacherous mountains of Iran, being hunted down by our enemies. Excuse me. Who were getting closer and closer by the hour, but was never truly alone because his commander-in-chief, Secretary of War, Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, and fellow fighters were monitoring his location 24 hours a day and diligently planning for his rescue. At my direction, the U.S. military sent dozens of aircraft armed with the most lethal weapons in the world to retrieve him. He sustained injuries, but he will be just fine. This miraculous search and rescue operation comes in addition to a successful rescue of another brave pilot yesterday, which we did not confirm because we did not want to jeopardize our second rescue operation. This is the first time in military memory that 2 U.S. pilots have been rescued separately, deep in enemy territory. We will never leave an American warfighter behind. The fact that we were able to pull off both of these operations without a single American killed or even wounded just proves once again that we have achieved overwhelming air dominance and superiority over the Iranian skies. This is a moment that all Americans, Republican, Democrat, and everyone else should be proud of and united around. We truly have the best, most professional and lethal military in the history of the world. God bless America. God bless our troops, and happy Easter to all. What a beautiful message, and what a absolute beautiful what beautiful news, not just for those who are so appreciative of our of our military, but also just all the veterans that have seen a country where leadership has left them behind. Look at Afghanistan with Biden. Look at Benghazi with Hillary and Obama. So this is also, to me, could also open up a can of worms with SEAL Team 6, with Benghazi, with Christopher Stevens, and 3 others, and what happened in Afghanistan with Biden, and the looking at his watch as these caskets were coming off the plane. Yeah, it's really remarkable what's coming along. So At any rate, so let's go number of uppercase letters. We'll go to 203 and we'll go to 203 and 23 and see if President Trump was trying to tell us something more with that post. 203 is bad bread. So that, again, I rarely find something significant with the zero still in it. So we drop the zero. Make sure that you're with me. Here we go. And note military intelligence, by the way, which was the second post of President Trump that took us to military intelligence, has the same SAPs as NSA, CIA, et cetera, as designated post 9/11. Why is this relevant? Who can be held hostage and controlled? CIA thinks its foreign offshore assets are strong enough to defend against the U.S. executive, not accounting for military use on domestic soil. Why does the Constitution explicitly grant this authority to the president, and what is it to prevent? So this is all about military on U.S. soil. They knew our agencies would grow in power so much so they can hold the executive hostage or engage with bad actors. Trump nominated someone new to direct every agency but one. He controls the top. And that, of course, was the NSA with Mike Rogers. Think Mirror 32, maybe one day, but it cannot go slow. The initial wave will be fast and meaningful. It will send a signal to others immediately, and you'll see this tide turn. Not even the MSN can hide, and rest assured, some will be jailed as deep cover agents. So we're talking about jailing the mainstream media talking heads. Okay, this is big. I feel a lot will happen in the next 2 days. I believe. I agree. So that's very, very significant. So let's get back to this post. I also want to do the timestamp and the military timestamp. It was at 12:08 a.m. So it's actually no military timestamp, but it is drop 8. Okay. Yeah, so let's go to drop 8 in addition to these two. Here we go. And see if President Trump was communicating with the timestamp as well. Drop 8, Huma, husband in jail. Okay, now HRC, Muslim Brotherhood, or child. So basically, Q is saying, does Huma Abedin want to be loyal to HRC, which was mentioned in the previous drops that Trump took us to today, also in the deltas, or to the Muslim Brotherhood, which propped her up and got her into that position with Hillary Clinton and supported her? Or would she want to raise her child? What would you do? Kiss your child goodbye and leave without a mother or father for Clinton? Where is and the father is Anthony Weiner, basically a convicted sexual predator. Where is Huma today? Well, she's married to Alex Soros. Well, Trump took us to, why did Soros sell all his assets or transfers all his assets to a tax-free charity? Was she with HRC on her book tour, military intelligence, state secrets? She was not with her on her book tour. No FBI. POTUS installed his people within each top spot at each 3-letter agency except one. Good reason. There's Admiral Rogers kickstarted this and scrubbed all POTUS nominations to verify oath. Well, we were just talking about that with post 23. Trump nominated someone new to direct every agency but one. He controls the top. So do you see how important the capital letters are? Okay. 203, we dropped the 0 and it took us right to 23, which is right here, talking about Trump nominated someone to direct every agency but one. But when we go to the actual timestamp, which is 8 minutes after midnight, okay, then we see that they're talking about the same thing. Do you think they aren't in control of those respective agencies? What is most valuable? Information. AG sessions on leakers, fire or prosecute. They were just talking about how they're not just going to the MSM can hide, and rest assured some will be jailed as deep cover agencies. The initial wave will be fast and meaningful. Okay, and signal, it will send a signal to others immediately. You'll see the tide turn. Okay, so this is all talking about the same thing. Reorganization is underway and happening. Coincidence, Senate Republicans pushing for federal judge confirmations last week. Why are Senate Republicans dropping out? Not by choice, and were offered a choice. Rest assured they will vote pro-Trump. So this is about the capitulation. And remember, everybody at that Joe Biden inauguration has already capitulated because they did not shoot that on the day that they were supposed to, right? So that was a dive from the Easter show, and I want to add two things to that. Drop 101 and drop 7. Now, on this day, we meaning the Department of War and the CIA, by the way, which President Trump had John Radcliffe talk about the intel and how necessary it was for us to use the CIA in the finding of this particular pilot. And we also found out today that the CIA was used in misinformation, disinformation to Iran, stating the whereabouts of the pilot, which wasn't where the pilot was, so that Iran would look elsewhere. And so this was genius, but it also exposed the use of the CIA in disinformation, which Trump also exposed CNN today when CNN came out with a false report about Iran not accepting the ceasefire agreement. And President Trump has actually said, let me take you to that on Truth Social. And President Trump said that the alleged statement put out by CNN World News is a fraud, as CNN well knows. The false statement was linked to a fake news site from Nigeria and, of course, immediately picked up by CNN and blared out as a legitimate headline. The official statement by Iran was just released and posted on Truth Below. Authorities are looking to determine whether or not a crime was committed on the issuance of the fake CNN World statement, or was it a sick rogue player? CNN is being ordered to immediately withdraw this statement with full apologies for their, as usual, terrible reporting. Results of the investigation will be announced in the near future. President Donald J. Trump. Now, this speech that President Trump gave just the other day, just yesterday. Let me rephrase that. On April 1st, okay, and this is it here. And he talks about this particular, when he received a question from CNN just in the past couple of days. He called them fake news. But one of the things he did on this particular day is he talked about the 101 missiles that were sent, and the USS Abraham Lincoln shot them all down. He's kind of going through the short history of this war. And he also compared this war and this conflict to the extended conflicts and wars that the U.S. has been engaged in the past. But by President Trump talking about that 101, I'll go to 101 in a second. But he also said, when he was talking about the pilots that were saved, he talked about how we were over the airspace for 7 hours, and this was picked up by Kevin Rotello. And so let me take you to drop 7, because he talked about being in their airspace for 7 hours. And we see October 29, 2017, this was the day that I started reading the Q drops. And they started posting on October 28th, and I found out about them the next day. Why wasn't HRC prosecuted for the emails? Put simply, Obama ultimately okayed by using the non-government email address to communicate with Clinton. Obama also had an alias along with each of his cabinet members. Imagine that. Therefore, indicting HRC would lead to indicting Obama and his cabinet, etc., which could never happen. Now, this was under the old DOJ, the old FBI, headed by Lynch, headed by Comey. Remember, he lied about knowing, but that ultimately came out in the dump. Poof. Okay? So, Anons have known about this for a very long time, and we've just been trying to catch everybody up. So here's the thing. If you're not listening to an Anon, and I'm going to show you a clip here in a few moments. If you're not listening to an Anon and you're listening to, Alex Jones, you're listening to Steve Bannon, etc., you're not getting the big picture. And these people were actually called out by Q. Now, let me take you to drop 101. Now, 101 is one of the first graphics that was pulled together, that an Anon pulled together, all the key graphics up to this point. Latest Q along with what was posted. And Q says graphic confirmed. Okay. Now Q goes on to give a code or a what do you call it? A position. 8 o'clock, which was significant because he gave Iran till 8 o'clock tonight. Then it says 12 o'clock, 11-6, TP Tony Podesta underscore public. Okay. Now we've seen 11-6, John Podesta, but this is Tony Podesta. And then Philippines, Barack Obama, extraction confirmed, 2 o'clock Zulu. Now, Philippines is where Barack Obama organized the assassination attempt on President Donald John Trump with that missile that was sent from off the coast of Washington State to intercept Air Force One. Because Q is NSA, we had Admiral Rogers on board with Q all along, and its military intelligence. They knew this plot was underway. They also had all their comms from the Star Wars online game through the signal chats and so forth. Q has told us that they have intercepted those communications between these people. Trump stopped in Hawaii. Q asks us, why would Trump stop in Hawaii? Can Air Force One refuel midair? And the answer is yes, it can. It has no need to stop and refuel. So the stop and refuel was to thwart that assassination attempt. Now, what's important to remember here is that the Black Hats did not, and I confirmed this a long time ago, the Black Hats did not kick Trump off Twitter, okay? Now, we know that Q predicted Trump's removal from Twitter. And I've talked to you about how do we know the future, okay? We either have, Operation, Looking Glass, Project Looking Glass that can, take all the events that are occurring and seeing into the future. All right. We've seen many time travel anomalies with President Trump, his connection with his Uncle John, Uncle John's connection to Tesla, Tesla's ability, as he said himself, and Tesla wasn't a braggart. He didn't have to, because he was otherworldly and stepped up with incredible technologies. But he said as he sat under that arc of electricity that he created with his Wardenclyffe Tower, that he saw the past, present, and future all at the same time. And we're getting glimpses of the simulation, getting glimpses of time travel with Ingersoll Lockwood and the series on Baron Trump, and the Q's use of the Ingersoll Lockwood website to drop some pretty heavy comms that I have shared with you that did predict some things. It predicted the WHO's mention of disease X on the day I told you when it was going to happen, to the day, and disease X. And they also mentioned another date, March 31st and April 1st. I searched for what could have been connected to disease X. And on March 31st was the transition from the swine flu from a pig to a human, the first occurrence of such a thing. Now, the significance of that is that they use the same narrative with the bat to human transfer in Wuhan over COVID. And at the time I told you, ahead of time I told you that we had a pandemic coming. And that was the way in which they tried to mask the fact that this was a manufactured pandemic, was by showing that it jumped from a bat to a human, and that started COVID and the 2020, lockdown. Now, and also the piercing of the firmament was predicted by a graphic that Ingersoll Lockwood showed. And I showed you that, and that was predicted to the day. But then not Starlink, but Musk's, mission to Mars bullshit. That rocket, 33, everything that has gone into the sky and headed for space has been a Masonic ceremony, a Masonic confirmation, with the astronauts being Freemasons, with the logos of the Apollo missions, with the snake tongue, the serpent tongue, with the even the Space Force logo upside down as Baphomet. All these things are Freemasonic. And even today, what's going on with Artemis, launched on April Fool's Day. Come on, it's all a distraction. It's all bullshit. But I showed you when that 33 engine rocket, and I predicted that they were going to try to break the firmament. And then indeed, it disappeared into the firmament with a splash, and it sealed back up. I showed you that on video. So, all of this, why do I say all this? Because what we're seeing here is the exposure of all this. I just showed you the other night the astronaut who said, "We've never sent anybody to the moon before. This will be the first time." Really? Okay. So you've just confirmed all of the conspiracy theorists that said that the moon landing was a hoax. So thank you for that. And I'm going to show you something else that's also going to prove that point out as well. But let me take you back. So President Trump, and let me take you back to this post, the Q drop. So President Trump took us to this with the 101 missiles, and I want to play that for you. And this is one that he said back on March 24th, but he said it again on April 1st. Okay. Let me take you to the one when he said it March 24th here.
are you encouraging our allies in the Gulf to be more involved in the Iran operation?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but more NATO. I think our Gulf allies have been pretty good, to be honest with you. UAE's been hit so hard. He got hit by 1,400 rockets, shot them all out of the air with our great Patriot missiles. Think of it, they shot 100 missiles at one of our aircraft carriers, the Abraham Lincoln, one of the biggest ships in the world, actually. And out of 101 missiles shot, every single one of them was knocked down in the sea. Think of that. Think of what that means. 101 missiles, highly sophisticated, very fast missiles shot. Out of 101, all 101 were shot down, and now, for the most part, lie at the bottom of the sea.
So 101, this was March 21st. Okay. I couldn't find the video from yesterday, but I grokked it. And here's the key excerpt from the transcript. He repeated variations of it a couple times while praising U.S. military technology, especially Patriot systems. And by the way, Patriot systems, Patriots are in control. Okay. You know, we have, in terms of technology, we had one day 101 missiles going at 2,700 miles an hour aimed at the Abraham Lincoln, 101 missiles. Out of 101 missiles, 101 missiles were shot down. Unbelievable technology. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know if that would have been possible. So he said it once, twice, 3, 4 times he said it. And shortly after, 101 missiles 5 times, heading to a ship that's not far off the coast. And out of the 101 missiles 6 times, we shot down all 101 7 times. Okay. Which also takes us to not just the 101, where he exposes Obama for trying to have him murdered, but also on that topic, I went off subject a little bit on Twitter. That I told you that Elon Musk was being brought in by the white hats to buy up Twitter and make it what it is today, which is a true information platform, whereas before it was completely controlled by @Jack and by Saudi Arabia, because Prince Al Walid was one of the major shareholders of Twitter and had the ability to access the high-level data in Twitter. And part of the high-level data was the location of everyone that was tweeting. And because President Trump was tweeting so much, they had his data every single step of the way. And they were able to geolocate him, and that's how they planned this assassination attempt with a missile, okay? Which, if it hit the president's plane, Air Force One, it probably wouldn't have known something was happening, and the story would have been that Air Force One went down in the Pacific. Okay, so but that also takes us back to Drop 7. Why wasn't HRC prosecuted for the emails? Put simply, Obama ultimately okayed by using non-government email address. So they also had these email communications. Q told us, right? Now, if you're not listening to Q, you might end up listening to some of these people. So let me play this for you. This is great work by somebody who I love, and I pointed her out. This is Chanel Rion. And back in the day, I told you, and I remember this distinctly, because I kept hearing President Trump talk about the human scourge, that he was, shutting down the trafficking. Shutting down the drug operations coming up through the waters in the Caribbean into the United States. And he kept saying human scourge, human scourge, human scourge. And I Googled human scourge, and 4 out of the 5 top Google searches mentioned human trafficking. So Chanel Rion asked President Trump at the day, and I went back live that night. I remember it was like 11:30 at night, and I went live with a brief podcast and told you that. The next day, Chanel Rion asked President Trump, President Trump, are you doing anything else besides curtailing the drug trafficking in the Atlantic? And he said, yes, human trafficking is going on there as well. Okay, so that was huge. So that was when I kind of really made you all aware of Chanel Rion, if you weren't already.
For years, the megaphone divas who made their money and reputations being the tough guys, the Alex Joneses, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Steve Bannons. These tough guys built their reputations and bank accounts by talking tough. But when it came time to be the tough guy, every one of these sunshine megaphone warriors folded.
Sick to my stomach and horrified at the change in Trump, and just wounded and sad and upset. He's making more and more big mistakes.
Vladimir Putin's philosophy.
I'm sorry. Let me back that up. I accidentally hit the mute button for some reason. But this is Alex Jones, and I've warned you about Alex Jones ever since Q warned us about Alex Jones.
Sick to my stomach and horrified at the change in Trump, and just wounded and sad and upset. He's making more and more big mistakes.
Vladimir.
So this is controlled opposition. Okay. Q told us that Alex Jones was Mossad. Okay. Q told us this, right? And I have explained how the controlled opposition works. Many of us were following Alex Jones back in the day, and I remember this story. Kelly Carlin, a dear friend, is George Carlin's daughter. I've shared with you how I met George, and I got to know George late in his life, and had great experiences with George. Thanks to Kelly. But Kelly did not believe in a lot of my conspiracies, and I remember I would constantly talk to her about Alex Jones and what he unveiled and all this, and she knew I listened to him. Alex Jones went on Pierce, the guy from England, the talk show host, who, and he went on and he asked Alex Jones about guns, and Alex Jones lost his mind on national television and said, if you try to take our guns, it's going to be 1776 all over again. And he freaked out. And I remember talking to Kelly shortly thereafter, and she said, this is your leader? This is the guy that you listen to? And that is a prime example of a controlled opposition psychological operation, where he gains your following, he gains your, when we're, 2 or 3 or 4 on X live, Alex is always at the top. And we only go to number 1 when Alex is offline. He's still got a massive following. He gets like 500,000, and we might be at 2,000 on X. And then we jump to number 1 when he goes off air. So he's still getting a massive following, and he's drawing people into conspiracy, drawing them into conservatism, into the Republican way of thinking, only to reverse. And he's done this on Trump many times, and he's also done this on Q, that he's denounced Q, just like the mainstream media has. So we've been aware of Alex for quite some time.
Putin's philosophical mentor and idol, Alexander Dugin, fully agrees with Alex Jones here. Quote tweeted him even. Yikes. And then Jones goes full Steve Bannon by pushing the idea that Trump is actually just unwell.
Babble and, sound like the brain's not doing too hot.
Wow. That's familiar. Remember when sloppy Steve Bannon was caught peddling the 25th Amendment to take Trump out of office in revenge for being fired? It was very credibly reported a few years ago. And then we see that Bannon was talking about this with predator Jeffrey Epstein, about how Trump is not mentally fit and we should explore using the 25th Amendment to push him out of office. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the former congresswoman, took the exact same cue in a novel-length quote tweet blasting Trump for daring to use such language against the Iranians on Easter. Everyone needs to intervene. That was her message. Notice how she's adopting the Bannon angle, that Trump isn't in his right mind and people need to step in. Here's what the liberals and these megaphone sunshine warriors simply don't understand. Operation Epic Fury is not a war against Iran. It's a war against Russia and mostly China. Iran is only barely standing militarily because of Chinese and Russian technology. Yet, they're still getting flattened. Trump's put on a clinic. He's demonstrated for the entire world the true paper tiger extent of China's military capabilities. For years, we've been told by experts, that in a simulated war with China, America loses every time, especially over Taiwan. This is a devastating combat performance report for China these last few months. When India moved in on Pakistan last year, Pakistan used Chinese defense shields and every one of them failed when deployed. During Operation Absolute Resolve to capture Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela's Chinese radars, including their JY-27A anti-stealth system, failed to actually provide early warning or tracking. The same Chinese-based systems failed Iran's defensive shields against U.S.-Israeli forces within hours. The failures are embarrassing. Pakistan, Venezuela, Gaza, Iran, these regions were China's military R&D. Third world countries and regions as guinea pigs for China's failing equipment. This on top of the fact that Xi has been trying to quell a military coup in his own country for the last year. China's military was a charade. Xi knows it, and now the world does too. By the way, the Chinese military can't even manage the Philippine fishing industry. That's another conversation. But not only is Trump using Operation Epic Fury to get rid of a forever war adversary, Iran, or to expose China's actual military strength, he's also calling China's bluff and showing how China doesn't have the guts to stand up and help their ally, their proxy, Iran. Iran is going all out in defense of itself only to show how cheap and useless China's military capabilities really are. And for all the cowards who are crying about how you should go send your own kids to war and see how you feel about it, well, guess what? Every single one of those men and women on the field right now signed up and volunteered for this exact moment in time. For the true soldiers, this war is their absolute fantasy, because they are the fastest, strongest, smartest, and best equipped military this planet has ever hosted, and they are reveling in their dominance. This is the moment they have been waiting for. Sunshine megaphone warriors should go ahead and sit this one out for years.
Well, my friends, I don't want them to sit out, because then we wouldn't know them for their actions. And that is absolutely imperative. But thanks to Chanel Rion, I'm reposting this on my X feed, which you can also see on Snedheads. As you get on snedheads.com, you can, if you're not on X, you can easily find what I'm posting on X by just dropping down to Dave's X feed, and you can see the show there. You can see the post, the White House post on President Trump, his comments, and a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. This was the threat, the final threat against Iran. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight one of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. So you can find that. You can also research Q drops. You can see the window to the world, some of my favorite tweets. Thank you, Gusto, for your donation. Much appreciated. And then you can see the X and Truth feeds of myself, Dan Scavino, and President Trump, which are obviously, just brimming with calm. So, folks, if you haven't joined snedheads.com, please do so. And please do so before it becomes the Rubicon.com, the Rubicon with a Q. And that is coming up very, very soon. So please check it out. Get on over to Snedheads. And you can also go to Donation Nation on Snedheads, which is right here. And you can donate to this show as well, right here on Donation Nation. So thank you for those of you who are supporting independent media, and we could not do it without you. And this is very, very key. Now, I want to go to the following. Now, President Trump posted his the capitulation of Iran. He posted on, but before I go there, I want to take you to how this has been leading up to Obama. This is back on April 4th. This is Tulsi Gabbard talking about Obama. And one of the things I wanted to mention was Spiritual Street Fighter 17 on X. And at Spiritual Street Fighter on Truth, one of her memes was President Trump and Obama sitting in the Oval Office during the peaceful transition of power. How about that? By the way, I've got Test under my name, and I'll change that. But I was working on some stuff earlier today, but. That's why that's there. And so let me take you to this. So President Trump reposted that twice of Spiritual Street Fighter's meme that, military tribunals for treason. And President Trump reposted that twice with a picture of Obama. Let me take you to this Tulsi Gabbard. This is April 4th.
That doesn't just affect Democrats or Republicans. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue with such significant impact that it should concern every American, because it has to do with the fabric and integrity of our democratic republic. That we had a situation here where in the months leading up to the 2016 election, the intelligence community assessed, and this is what the documents detail, the intelligence community assessed essentially Russia doesn't have the tools, the capability, or the intent to try to change the outcome of the US presidential election. Donald Trump pulls off a historic victory against Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. Even in the days after that election, the intelligence community continued their consistent assessment that reflected the same thing in the months leading up to the election. All of a sudden, in the early days of December, there was a president's daily brief that was drafted. This is put together by the different elements of the intelligence community that reflected that same assessment. Russia did not try to hack the election, in essence. That PDB, that document, was pulled hours before it was supposed to be published for the president to see that following morning. That document was never published until we released it yesterday. One day later, President Obama calls a meeting of his National Security Council, his top officials, to be held on what they called a sensitive topic. And the results of that meeting, which we released yesterday, and these over 100 documents that talk about in detail how President Obama and his team, he directed a manufactured piece of intelligence that detailed not if, but how Russia tried to influence the outcome.
And then we have another post by Jay, April 1st. And this is a very, very significant post as well.
Inspectors will monitor Iran's key nuclear facilities 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. For decades to come, inspectors will have access to Iran's entire nuclear supply chain. In other words, if Iran tries to cheat, if they try to build a bomb covertly, we will catch them.
They didn't catch them.
So the bottom line is this: whereas Iran was steadily expanding its...
There was never an intention by this man to catch them. And that can be verified by Q and by Obama's ties to the Muslim Brotherhood through his right hand, Valerie Jarrett, which I've shared with you, is the what President Trump was saying with the song, the snake at his rallies, when he kept doing that poem the way he was doing it, of the snake, and how I showed you, and this was an original as well, that he was talking about Obama because Valerie Jarrett's father-in-law was partners in the Negro News Front in Chicago in the 60s, radical Chicago. These were communists at the time. He was partners with a man by the name of Oscar Brown Jr. Oscar Brown Jr. was the writer of the song The Snake, which I've shown you. And so the infiltration of the Muslim Brotherhood has been pointed to us in Obama through Valerie Jarrett, VJ, in the Q drops, and also Huma Abedin in the Clinton, front.
Nuclear program. We have now cut off every single path that Iran could have used to build a bomb. Whereas it would have taken Iran 2 to 3 months to break out with enough material to rush to a bomb, we've now extended that breakout time to a year.
President Trump has also sent comms to the Anons, letting us know that they are very aware that not only did Obama, and President Trump has been talking about this many times in the past week, about Obama sending them $1.7 billion in cash, okay, but also Obama and Hillary Clinton created and made happen the Uranium One deal through Russia, which went to Europe and ended up in Iran and North Korea, which is why President Trump bombed the mountain of North Korea, which Q says no one ever suspected POTUS for doing that. But that's why he bombed North Korea and bombed Iran. It's two very significant bombings that interrupted and stopped the proliferation of nuclear weapons by both those regimes, which were being used by the CIA, the corrupt CIA, and Obama and Hillary Clinton. They were going to create World War III and put us in lockdown, and that's very clear to us now.
And with the world's unprecedented inspections and access to Iran's program, we'll know if Iran ever tries to break out. Now that Iran's actions have been verified, it can begin to receive relief from certain nuclear sanctions and gain access to its own money that had been frozen. And perhaps most important of all, we've achieved this historic progress through diplomacy.
Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world. From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel, for 47 years. Their proxies were behind the
47.
murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, the slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs. They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole, and they carried out the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel, something that most people have never seen anything like it. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran. 45,000 dead. For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat. The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen, and neither should any of our past presidents.
There you have it. Yeah, out of Kalula. The entire Congress should be charged with treason. So, yeah. So so this was also, to me, because the CIA was used for good, and President Trump brought Radcliffe out in front of everybody and showed that they're also telling us that the CIA has been taken back by the White Hats and is being used for misinformation in a good way, not a bad way. And so this is very, very good right now, what we're seeing. And by the way, what this also revealed are the panicants, like Chanel Rion was telling us. And this is El Donaldo Trumpo, which we know is Trump. It's the art of the deal, baby. No time for panicants. And President Trump there with the king and all the chess pieces knocked over with AI here. So very interesting to see who stepped up and made fools of themselves, right? The Iran army media, I wanted to share the 10 things that the 10-point conditions that the U.S. has accepted. Now you see the verbiage on this. Iran's 10-point conditions that the U.S. has accepted versus Trump's 10-point conditions that Iran has accepted. This is the verbiage they use to save face. The U.S. is fundamentally committed to non-aggression. By the way, non-aggression, this is the regime that has been calling for death to America and death to Israel for how long? And is repressive of their own people, is murdering their own people, assassinating their own people. Trump talked about how Iranian assassins, Iranian snipers were killing the women that were marching for their rights so that, they could not be covered from head to toe and be able to speak their mind. Continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. I don't see that lasting, by the way. I don't think that President Trump is going to give control of the Strait of Hormuz back to Iran at all. Acceptance of enrichment. I don't see that happening. Lifting all primary sanctions, lifting all secondary sanctions, termination of all UN Security Council resolutions. Trump's not really worried about the UN Security Council because they're not going to be around. Trump has already created the Board of Peace, which will replace the UN, and the UN will be no longer, just like NATO will be no longer, certainly without the US involvement. Termination of all IAEA Board of Governors resolutions, payment of compensation to Iran. Meanwhile, Iran has already given us many tankers, over 10 tankerfuls of oil. I believe in payment compensation for what Obama gave them. Withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region, cessation of war on all fronts, including against the heroic Islamic resistance of Lebanon. So this is one of those kind of safe face kind of things, in my opinion, and I think we will see a very different outcome when it's all said and done. So yeah, let's see. Ducato, who is on the ground in Iran, says, I am bleeding my pockets dry, paying astronomical prices for a half-broken internet connection just to read what the outside world is saying. And let me be honest, it is absolutely infuriating to see how completely disconnected so many of you are from the actual mood of the people inside Iran. Do not lose your nerve. Do not be afraid. The narrative you are seeing right now is a complete illusion. The voices currently being amplified online are fake, manipulated, and engineered by the cyber army of this cannibalistic regime. They have locked us in a digital prison and severed our connection to the world specifically so they can control the narrative and project a false sense of fear and submission. We are not cowering in the dark. We are watching a dying terrorist syndicate thrash in its final days. Do not judge the resolve of the Iranian people based on the fabricated noise of our captors. Wait until these walls come down. Wait until this internet blackout is broken and you can finally hear the unfiltered, undeniable roar of a nation that has been stripped to the bone. You will see exactly what an unstoppable force looks like. Hold the line, level the playing field, and we will finish the job. This was just yesterday posted by Ducato. Here, a night of dark renown, fighting the shadows for the sake of moonlight, with the ancient Iranian flag versus the new Iranian flag. So, thanks to Ducato and strength and peace to you for the work that you're doing to get the word out. Now this, I have not verified this, but this has been posted, and I want to share it with you, and you can do your own due diligence on this. But Tukey, and I'm giving Tukey a follow, okay? Holy shit, the CIA just used a tool called Ghost Murmur to find an American pilot hiding in a mountain crevice in Iran by detecting his heartbeat. Not his phone, not a tracker, not a radio signal, his heartbeat. Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works built it, the same classified division that built the SR-71 Blackbird that was, for the longest time, the fastest aircraft in the world. They still say it's the fastest. I believe that is still the narrative, but that's no longer true. The stealth bomber and the U-2 spy plane, every secret aircraft America has ever denied existed until they didn't. It uses quantum magnetometry to pick up the electromagnetic pulse your heart makes every time it beats. Then AI filters out everything else. The pilot, call sign Dude 44 Bravo, was wounded alone for 2 days, hiding in a crack in a mountain while Iranian forces searched for him on foot. And America found him from the sky by listening to his chest. Here's the part that should rewrite everything you think about privacy and power. This was Ghost Murmur's first operational use, meaning it's been sitting in a vault, tested, ready, waiting for a moment important enough to reveal it. They didn't show you this to impress you. They showed you this because the next person they use it on won't be a rescue. And Polymarket posted this. CIA reportedly used secret new tool Ghost Murmur to locate the downed U.S. airmen in Iran capable of detecting a human heartbeat from long range. And this was also very much spoken about with Radcliffe here, and I'm gonna play him for you here. This is the current director of the CIA, John Radcliffe. Here we go. Let me pull this up.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a privilege to be here with you today to share what we can about this exceptional mission and to recognize the ingenuity and bravery of those who executed it, as well as the leadership and resolve of the president who ordered it. One thing that has been clear to me in this role is that the flawless military operations that the Department of War is known for are hostage to flawless intelligence. We saw that in the skies over Iran in Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. We witnessed it in Venezuela during Operation Absolute Resolve. We've seen it against the cartels in the Western Hemisphere, and we're seeing it every day in Operation Epic Fury, including this mission to rescue an aviator buried deep behind enemy lines. Because it is the unique tradition of the U.S. Armed Forces that we leave no man or woman behind, this was a no-fail mission. That was the spirit in which the president put us to work, and we were determined not to let him down or our airmen down. As an agency, the CIA possesses unique capabilities that only the president can deploy. Some of these capabilities fall under covert action authorities. And
This is what he's talking about.
because covert means exactly that, I'm not going to be able to tell you everything that you want to know. At the president's direction, we deployed both human assets and exquisite technologies that no other intelligence service in the world possesses to a daunting challenge, comparable to hunting for a single grain of sand in the middle of a desert. This was also a race against the clock, as it was critical that we locate the downed aviator as quickly as possible, while at the same time keeping our enemies misdirected. For that reason, in addition to the human and technical assets deployed by the president to find our airmen, CIA executed a deception campaign to confuse the Iranians who were desperately hunting for our airmen. On Saturday morning, we achieved our primary objective by finding and providing confirmation that one of America's best and bravest was alive and concealed in a mountain crevice, still invisible to the enemy, but not to the CIA. That confirmation was relayed by Secretary Hegseth to the president, and the operation quickly moved to the execution phase. Following the successful exfiltration on Saturday night, our intelligence reflects that the Iranians were embarrassed and ultimately humiliated by the success of this audacious rescue mission. When the president asked me to lead the CIA, he made it clear, get back to basics, no politics, no agendas, tackle the hardest problems, and execute the toughest missions. This president is about results. And now, that's what his CIA is about too. The professionals at the agency and at the Department of War deserve immense credit for their flawless execution during this daring mission. Their skill, creativity, and courage are unmatched on the battlefield wherever they step. But none of that matters. And all of that is wasted without a president with the political courage to put them into action. Mr. President, I've had the privilege of seeing you act with political courage in the best interest of the United States up close on a daily basis, and I'm grateful that this successful mission has given the American people a window into that as well. The Secretary and Chairman will tell you that our service members' confidence is boosted by a Commander-in-Chief who has their back the same way they have yours. And I know that the confidence of CIA's officers is boosted by the knowledge that their work is informing a president who's not afraid to make the hardest decisions when the stakes are highest. And to the American people, your confidence should be boosted by knowing that the security of the nation is in the hands of a president who's willing to take on problems that have confounded both sides of the political aisle for nearly half a century. It is an honor to serve under a leader who just proved that you can believe him when he says, no matter what, We will leave no one behind. We will come for you. Thank you.
We will leave nobody behind. A big difference between this administration and the last one, right? Big, big difference. I also want to take you to, there was also, by the way, in my dive that I did that was deleted, literally erased from my drafts, and X did not allow me to post that dive. But there was a connection that it was a drop regarding John Huber in Utah, which Sessions hired to basically Huber is responsible for most of the sealed indictments that we are waiting on to be unsealed. And so the significance of this is that the drop on Huber has to do with the fact that grand jury outside of the DC swamp, right? And it has to do with the grand jury investigations. And that points us to the Florida grand jury investigation into Crossfire Hurricane. Okay. This has to do with, Q let us know that this was happening. Okay. I want to take you to today's Delta, which is here. I have to do this differently here. And here we go. Let me pull up April 7th. And today's Delta says is two things. One is here we have it right here. You have more than you know. Steel, tech, America for sale. Systematic weakening of the U.S. through Russia and through China. Then it mentions Uranium One, the cash flow funnel. So we have to get into the Uranium One cash flow funnel. Why did Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama create the Russian reset and allow the Uranium One deal, which ended up in the hands of both this uranium ending up in the hands of both Iran and North Korea. Inside job, traders, dollars, money. We are in control. Those awake can see. And those awake aren't just these pundits that have been doing podcasts for many, many years, but Anons. And then an Anon says, Q, please confirm or tell us if we are wrong about POTUS's weekly address, it's happening, meaning what we all think it means. Q said, talking to you, Anon, meaning POTUS is talking to you. We always see it's happening here. The tone, war, April showers, okay, which we've been showering Iran with these weapons, okay? I want to take you to tomorrow's Delta, which takes us to POTUS and JFK Jr. relationship, plane crash 1999, HRC Senate 2000, the start. Enjoy the show. Now, for those of us in the know, we know that excuse me, that JFK Jr. Let me see appearance. I want to see if I can darken that. Yeah, I'm in dark mode. Why isn't the keyboard in dark mode right now? I don't understand. We know that HRC had JFK Jr. murdered or so they made us think. Some of us still think he's alive and will be making an appearance that will awaken the masses, because his disappearance is going to be a part of the exposure of HRC. So that's signal intercept, CIA government reading room docs, old to new as the world turns. This has to do with them intercepting signals in communications that were meant to harm or destroy. And certainly the situation with JFK Jr. is no exception. So, my friends, if you would like to support the work I do, please do so. It is much appreciated and very necessary in continuing my work here. And I cannot do it without you, because I am 100% funded by you, and I have given away every one of my 1,600 plus shows for free, never had a paywall. And so your support is absolutely imperative for me to continue this mission that has been my mission to awaken the masses and bring truth to and light to darkness. So thank you for that. And here we go. Yeah, I can't wait for them to both go down. Absolutely, I agree. And by the way, we have a birthday tonight, today. Jeannie Anton. Thank you, Jeannie, for joining us on your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear 49th birthday, Jeannie. Happy birthday to you. I wish it was 47, because we've got 47 comms left and right. But I hope you had a wonderful birthday. Thanks for joining us on your birthday. And it's absolutely fabulous to have you here. And for those who are, wanting non-mRNA, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, please check out Lightning Springs Ranch out of Utah. This is a great supporter of me, and I had some of their beef yesterday, and it is nurturing me and keeping me strong. And I'm doing less carbs, so I'm down 20 pounds and feeling very, very good. And also I'm down a few more pounds because I got my hair cut a little bit more today. So I don't know how much weight that took off, but I'll have to get back on the scale. But thank you all for supporting this family out of Utah who are doing amazing things by putting steak on our table, and good steak at that. Very, very strong nourishment, right? Very strong nourishment. So thank you for those of you who are supporting them. Yeah, my friends, we're coming up on 2 hours. What an amazing evening. I want to thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Moonbeam. Thank you, Quasi Pete, for holding down the fort in such a beautiful way, and just having just an incredible chat here, because we keep the riffraff out and those who are in the bots. And so you are very much appreciated. Yes, my friends. So I will thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, Maggie. Appreciate all that. Let's see. Michael says, Q asked a question tonight, and the same question last time I was in the show. Q asked, who can be held hostage? Well, okay. let's look at this, Michael. Thank you, and sorry if I missed that last time. So, who can be held hostage? Okay. The only way you can hold somebody hostage is if they're valuable enough to, to rescue them, right? Nobody's going to take somebody hostage that doesn't give them some kind of leverage. There's Jasper going and keeping me safe, by the way. So you're not going to take somebody hostage that doesn't give you leverage, right? So who can be held hostage? Well, the people that can be held hostage are the people that give them leverage. And how do they gain leverage over the people of the world? They have information on you, so they hold you hostage. All these musicians, all these people like Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, and that are turning their back on President Trump, and things of that nature. They have dirt on them. They know things about them that they're holding them hostage to send a message that doesn't serve you and I and doesn't serve the truth. And so I hope that helps. Michael says, I'm being held hostage in Sacramento. I think everybody in California is being held hostage right now. And Jingle, thank you for sharing the show and also tagging influencers and tagging other people that you think would benefit by it. I appreciate that. And thank you all of you who did share this show, and all of you who are supporting this show. I will be on again tomorrow night. I think we'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow night, and we might be able to step outside of Iran and the war, because hopefully things will be kept at bay for a while. And I also want to say that there are no new posts put out by President Trump as of now. And what I wanted to share with you, one more thing, and that is the post about hold on one second. Tomorrow's deltas. I showed you that. I showed you the one about JFK Jr., but I want to show you also what else is in tomorrow's deltas, and it has to do with ISIS and John McCain, and also takes us to Barack Obama, because Q asks us, why did Barack Obama not stop ISIS? Why did Hussein protect ISIS? POTUS, ISIS focus and destroy 1 year, versus Hussein 8 years and he didn't destroy ISIS, versus G.W. Bush. DC access sold out, bring back the gallows. That is, death for treason. And this is very, very important, because all of these comms regarding Obama. So this is, this is very good. Okay. And that's tomorrow. So really it has to do with, all these comms that lead to Obama and all of this that we're seeing being exposed right now. And this is, and Huber also being mentioned in the drops while I was looking for that post. Let me see. Here we go. And part of the Huber investigation is, will Barack Obama transcripts be released? Huber plus IG plus 470, inside or outside the DC swamp. How many members of Congress not seeking re-election? Speaker of the House not seeking re-election. How many senators have resigned or not seeking another term? How many senior FBI have been removed? DOJ have been removed. Nothing to see here, but we should attack them head on in DC using a second Supreme Court. Emotion clouds judgment. And obviously, President Trump was also very recently critical of the Supreme Court. And we also know that John Roberts is compromised, not just with Epstein, but with the FISA court, because John Roberts oversees the FISA court. And so this is something that we are seeing more and more of. And speaking of Congress, let me share this with you on John Thune, a post by Santa Trump. Trump is pure genius. Here we go.
And maybe it'll be tested, maybe it won't. I think it's very obvious what's said. And I'll ask Will Scharf, to start off, attorney, and a great talent, a very brilliant young man, discuss it. And then I'm going to ask Howard Lutnick to say a few words, and then I'm going to sign it, and we'll take a couple of questions. Okay, thank you.
Trump may have just ended John Thune's career, and Thune doesn't even know it yet. One executive order on election integrity signed today allegedly made the entire Senate Majority Leader position look powerless overnight. Trump called it foolproof, put attorney Will Scharf front and center to explain it, had Howard Lutnick standing right beside him, and then signed it without a single phone call to Congress. That's the receipt. Thune was supposed to push the Save America Act through the Senate. That was his job, his moment, his leverage. Trump apparently decided he couldn't wait and couldn't trust him. Now Thune's authority is in free fall, his caucus is watching, and the consequences for his leadership could be catastrophic. So what happens to a Senate Majority Leader when the president publicly proves he doesn't need him?
The question is on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I understand that there is a bill at the desk that is due for a second reading.
The leader is correct. The clerk will read the title of the bill for a second time.
S 4277, a bill to make appropriations for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Mr. President, in order to place the bill on the calendar under the provisions of Rule 14, I would object to further proceeding.
Objection is heard, so the item will be placed on the calendar under Rule 14.
John Thune is the Republican leader of the United States Senate. That means he's supposed to be the most powerful Republican voice in the upper chamber, the guy moving Trump's agenda forward. Right now, he's running defense against it. Here's the situation in plain terms. President Trump wants to pass a law called the Save America Act. It would require voter ID, proof of citizenship, and lock down the mail-in ballot system that millions of Americans believe has been exploited for years. This is not a fringe position. It polls at 87% with voters across party lines. To pass it, Senate Republicans need to end the filibuster, a procedural rule that lets the minority block legislation by dragging out debate indefinitely. Thune refuses, and it's not just the filibuster. He went on vacation. He came back and immediately sent a Department of Homeland Security funding bill back to the House without ICE funding included. Then he blocked Trump's recess appointments using a procedural trick. Here's why this matters to working families and to every voter who went to the polls in November. A Republican Senate leader is spending more energy stopping the president of his own party than stopping the Democrats. That's the story. And Trump just responded. The moment Thune walked back into that chamber, his first real move was to gut a DHS funding bill and send it back to the House. Watch what he does with his very first piece of business on the floor.
The Senate completes its business today, adjourned to then convene for pro forma session only, with no business being conducted on the following dates and times: Monday, April 6th at 1 p.m., Thursday, April 9th at 12 noon. Further, when the Senate adjourns on Thursday, April 9th, it stand adjourned until 3 p.m. on Monday, April the 13th, and following the prayer and pledge, the morning hour be deemed expired. The journal of proceedings be approved today at the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day. Morning business be closed, and Senate proceed to executive session and resume consideration of executive calendar number 672, John Shepard. Finally, that the cloture motions filed on Friday, March 27th, ripen at 5:30 p.m.
Without objection.
Mr. President, if there is no further business to come before the Senate, I ask it to stand adjourned under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned.
Stripping ICE funding out of a bill isn't a procedural technicality. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, are the officers actually arresting and deporting illegal immigrants. Removing their funding and bouncing it back to the House is a policy choice. And the choice Thune made tells you everything about where his real priorities sit. That's not a miscommunication. That's a signal. And then came the second move, the one that almost nobody in mainstream media is talking about. Thune immediately scheduled what are called pro forma sessions. For those unfamiliar, a pro forma session is essentially a fake workday. The Senate gavels in for 30 seconds, no business is conducted, and then they leave. The only reason it exists is to prevent Congress from technically being in recess. Because when Congress is in recess, the president holds the constitutional authority to make recess appointments, filling government positions without waiting for Senate confirmation. Thune is deliberately blocking Trump from staffing his own administration. That is not a neutral move.
And Republicans can have no part of that.
When is this in?
Soon, I hope. We have to get the government operating again. As I said, I can call the House members back for a vote as soon as we get something worked out with the Senate. Obviously, we're working on this around the clock. I was up until almost midnight last night having conversations with senators to get this done. But it's a shame. It looks like we will have to do the heavy lift on our own, Republicans, because the Democrats they're obstructionists at this point, and it's really sad.
So Thune's back from vacation, kills ICE funding, and immediately sets up procedural walls around Trump's appointment power. If a Democrat Senate leader did this to a Democrat president, every Republican in Washington would be screaming obstruction. The label fits here too. The uniform doesn't change the act. Meanwhile, Speaker Mike Johnson isn't sleeping on any of this. He's on the phone at midnight trying to get senators to move on the DHS funding fight. He said it himself.
Mr. President, stopping the massive cheating that's gone on. And so we're going to be signing an executive order. It's, I believe it's foolproof. And maybe it'll be tested, maybe it won't. I think it's very obvious what's said. And I'll ask Will Scharf to start off, attorney, a great talent, a very brilliant young man. And if you could discuss it, and then I'm going to ask Howard Lutnick to say a few words, and then I'm going to sign it, and we'll take a couple of questions. Okay, thank you.
Trump may have just ended John Thune's career, and Thune doesn't even know it yet. One executive order on election integrity signed today.
Stopping the massive cheating that's gone on.
So this is part of the exposure of not just the judicial, not just the executive with Obama and all that, but the legislative as well. Now, I found the drop that I wanted to take you to regarding John Huber. John Huber is the one in Utah, Deep Red, Utah. And the reason I went there was because of President Trump's post, I believe 2 days ago. And it was done at 3:54 Eastern Standard Time. And it says, shall we play a game? Find the spiders and build the web, the map, which is the Q drops. Remember, they consider you to be the fly, specifically the feeder. Remember, they never thought she was going to lose, obviously talking about Hillary. Therefore, they never thought investigations in or public interest into their criminal acts would be exposed, investigated. Therefore, they never thought they had anything to fear. Therefore, they openly showcased their symbolism. Therefore, they were sloppy. Hussein's last speech in Chicago regarding scandal-free, again, Barack Obama. Why did he continually emphasize that phrase? As a backup, they infiltrated and controlled the narrative, the MSM. As a backup, they install only those on the team. As a backup, they blackmail those that aren't, hold them hostage. As a backup, they define conspiracy as crazy, mentally unstable, and label anything true as such. This works given most of what they engage in is pure evil and simply unbelievable, hard to follow. The fix has always been in, no matter which party won the election. JFK killed, Reagan shot. This was always the promise made to those who played the game, willingly or otherwise, i.e. they would never lose power. Power of the three-letter agencies, power over the U.S. military, worldwide dominance to push against other nations and install like kind. These people are really stupid. Follow the husbands. Another hint, Ian Cameron, McKinsey and Company, Clowns in America, Dr. J. Emmett Rice, Federal Reserve, everyone is connected. How about a nice game of chess? Then Q, and Q, also the military timestamp on this references 1553. So we pull up 1553 and it brings up said U.S. Attorney John Huber is investigating claims of FBI and DOJ misconduct related to these actions, noting that Huber would be conducting his work from outside the Washington, D.C. area and in cooperation with Horowitz. So, and then they go down to talk about the grand jury. This is huge. A grand jury can be impaneled anywhere in any deep red state away from D.C., see Florida, and the grand jury investigating Crossfire Hurricane. This is very important and why Trump needed to appoint as many judges as possible. Okay? Huber and Horowitz can accomplish everything a Supreme Court can do. And then it also says Huber and Horowitz were both appointed to their positions by the Obama administration. This helps optics a lot, pretty much decimates the Trump rigged the investigation argument that's sure to be made. Okay? This is all about Obama and Crossfire Hurricane. And it is fire, my friends. It is fire. Thank you once again for joining me, and I'm glad that that we are where we are, and it is a very, very special time in human history, and we are going to find out the truth very, very soon, and justice will be done. See you tomorrow night, my friends. Thanks for joining me. Good night.